Yo, yo, what's up, good people? The boys from the Phantom Geek Zone are back again. As usual, I'm Izzy.
I'm Riyaal.
And today we're going to be breaking down, in continuation of our MCU recap series, Avengers Age of Ultron.
So Avengers 2.
Avengers 2. Yeah, we're back with the Avengers crew yet again. And
Yeah.
first things first, right off the bat, I don't know if you're aware of this. This is the, shall we say, middle child of the Avengers stories, not quite liked, not up there in popularity, and people gave it quite a hard time when it
Yeah.
dropped.
Still
so, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It hasn't even aged well as far as that, general consensus is concerned. So I'm very keen to hear what your take on it is, as far as the evolution, all of that is concerned, hindsight, knowing what we know, the whole nine. First things first. This is also Joss Whedon's
Second.
second movie. He
Crack at it,
wrote
yeah.
and directed the first one, wrote and directed this one, but it was the last time he worked with the MCU because this is
And then
now
he went and did other
when
things.
Marvel is becoming, this big juggernaut and kind of pressing their thumb down on all the creators involved. We've discussed this where Jon Favreau is concerned. This is now, Joss Whedon's turn. And then I think from here onwards, for the most part, is where they start to have, there's one major one also, but catch our next review for that. And then, before they got into this whole director / gun for hire type of thing, as opposed to going the more auteur direction. But let's kick it off by addressing the elephant in the room. Is this movie as bad as people have been saying?
No. No.
Thank
No.
you. Tell us why.
On the rewatch. So I
Yeah.
rewatched it. Obviously,
Yeah.
we always rewatch it to recap.
Yeah.
And obviously, you go in. We have like these movies we haven't watched for years.
Yes.
Maybe you catch something on DSTV when you're at home in December. But yeah, Marvel. It's usually Spider-Man on DSTV.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a while since I've seen this movie. I've always liked the character Ultron. As a world beater type of situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, the story it wasn't bad. Like it wasn't as bad as people made it out to be.
Yep.
For me, maybe the pacing was a little bit of an issue.
Okay.
Pacing and background, maybe a little bit. Because first thing you see is Ultron destroying Jarvis at the beginning of the movie, and the next thing you know, he's like building a titanium body for himself, and then it's like, okay, but like in between, what's happening there? How is he taking over the world?
Okay.
How is he becoming Ultron? Because they allude to it in bits and pieces in the movie, where it's like, this guy's multiplying like Catholic rabbits, and like,
amazing
what a
line.
line, yeah. And it's just like, okay, but cool, but show me as well. Like I want to see it.
Okay.
So maybe the pacing is a little bit off for me. But all in all, I liked the story. I liked where it went.
Yeah.
I liked, in hindsight now, knowing what I know of the MCU,
Yes.
all the little bits and pieces that they dropped.
Man. Yeah.
Because Tony Stark monologued and said something about an end game with aliens.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, okay. I don't know if that was I don't know if that was intentional or not, but
Yes.
going back, it looks pretty cool if it was intentional.
Yeah.
Also, you see the rift between Tony and Cap throughout the movie. They just at each other the whole time.
Yeah.
So you see that element. You see elements of Hulk and him coming to terms with being the Hulk. Sorry, I should say Bruce Banner coming to terms with being the Hulk, but also allowing himself to be open, to love.
Yeah.
But also like the little backhanded things that they address. It's like, where's Pepper and Jane? Like, oh!
Yeah.
I'm getting sidetracked here. But yeah, so I liked the movie. They introduced new characters really well.
Yes.
Which I really enjoyed. So I think Wanda and Pietro, so the Maximovs, as well as Vision. Who else did they introduce?
Honey. Hawkeye's wife.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Hawkeye's family, I should say.
Yeah.
Hawkeye's family, that was also really nice.
Yep.
Nice little side story there. And also just the tease of the hammer. I didn't realize this was the movie.
This
where
is
it
where
was. Yeah.
yeah.
So also, but it also as well. It's like Tony wants to make the world a safer place, but how is he doing it? With drones. Who did he fight that used drones? Whiplash. So is he becoming the villain? You know, that's kind of what I got to in
That's deep.
this movie. A little bit too down the rabbit hole, but yeah, I mean, if we're not here to go
man,
down the rabbit hole.
I was going to say, it's what we're here for. Yeah.
So it's like, it's like
The Catholic rabbit hole, as it were.
So just thinking about all of those things, just a little bit of like you're taking bits from the old like stories you have watched, and stories you are going to come, and it kind of makes it a better movie. I should say.
Yes.
It ages better when you've seen everything in perspective.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's So my opinion, not as bad as people make it out to be.
Cool.
Character work from everyone, really, really good.
Yeah.
Shout out to Andy Serkis always.
Man, I'm gonna talk about Andy. Remind me.
Andy Serkis, and then I think it was James Spader who was Ultron.
Of course.
James Spader's Ultron voice is just man,
meant to be beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when he becomes a little child and gets aggressive, it just comes across and it's like,
no, don't compare me to Tony Stark. What is?
Cut off an hand.
Yeah. Yes. You're disappointing your daddy there, Junior. But let me not get ahead of myself. Let me let you
I
cook.
think this movie, yes, is a middle child, but it set up a lot of things, which I think makes it better than what people think it is. And then obviously you have your good fight scenes here and there. Artwork is always, or cinematography is always pretty good.
Yes.
Storyline. I don't know how you feel about the storyline too much.
Before I proceed, do you recall what you thought initially?
Oh, when on the first watch?
Yeah. Or even just in general, whenever you think back.
I think it was one of those where it's like, it's not outstanding, but it's not.
So your own opinion on it has improved?
Yes, my own opinion has improved.
Okay. Yeah, no, certainly, I mean, again, I've said this a million times, sometimes I'm like, I don't know if it's a good or bad thing. I still don't know how I feel about whenever, we have like the same opinion, like, do I want us to always disagree? Do I want us to always agree? Whatever, but we certainly do agree in this aspect. This movie did not deserve the flack that it got. Again, as always,
certain aspects.
But not overall. Yeah. I could always go into context about, what happened and how people form their opinions and whatever, but it's always going to be the same thing, or usually anyway, as far as the comic book, again, we are geeks or movie geeks, but the comic book geeks are always going to hold them to those particular standards. And don't get me twisted, for the most part, I know that the comic books have brilliant writing.
Yeah.
And so, they basically want the movies to live up to that. I mean, something very small before I resume with my own opinion is the Ultron backstory. I believe it's Hank Pym who originally created him and that whole thing. So as soon as you change that up, then people are no, cool. For me, give me a good interpretation of whatever your vision is, pun unintended. And I'm happy to roll with it if it makes sense. So my summary, nope, did not deserve the flack that it got. I certainly enjoyed it quite a bit. And as always, we're going to address the elephant in the room. Joss Whedon, look, by no means, we're going to gloss over the fact that he's a certified asshole. If you don't know, go read up about him and how he's, pretty much his whole career been treating people on set and that whole story. It just so happened to come out at a much later stage. That being said, we're here to judge the work, the art, not the man. What a writer. What a fucking writer. Like, I feel like there are elements here and there where he gets a lot of praise and all, but I tend to feel like his praise more for the flash, the flashier side of things, shall I say, as opposed to his actual writing. Perhaps there was a time where it was more appreciated. I feel like that's kind of become lost around the time where he was, in this comic book space, MCU in particular, because he's done other comic book stuff before. But I don't know if we give him the credit for that, man. Tarantino, for instance, gets a lot of credit for his dialogue. Like, yes, the writing but the dialogue in particular. But if you think about his dialogue, it's more I don't know, man. There's a swagger to his dialogue, for lack of a better phrasing. Tarantino.
Yeah.
There's some swagger to his writing.
Kind of emulates his personality.
Yeah, it's almost an animated element to it. It's flared up. I'm trying to find the right words to describe it, but
grandiosity.
Yes, thank you. If you watched a single one of his movies, you know exactly what I'm trying to articulate with this point. In contrast, Joss Whedon is, I would say, arguably as great a writer. It's just that he's maybe on the other end of the coin, where he's got that more grounded and human element, to his writing. Because that is what ultimately tied this thing together for me.
And now as you see talking about it, like I'm thinking about it, the monologues were clutch.
Dude, think about
the monologues.
Think about all the discussions the characters were having with one another, the internal struggles, the infighting, whatever it was. I'm like, this is brilliant writing. And I don't think this guy gets the credit where that is concerned, right? That being said, that for me is a huge component of what elevates this movie. Speaking of old opinions, I was among the crowd initially. Like, I felt a bit let down by it and so on. Overall, there were elements I enjoyed quite a lot, but overall I felt like I wanted and needed more. And my comment about the middle child also stems from the fact that I've gained context into no, this movie was necessary as far as how it was portrayed, because it's Avengers. You're expecting flash, spectacle, fights 24/7.
And you get that.
You get here and there, but the reserved moments where you're building the rest of the universe, you're giving context, you're establishing motivation and all those things. At the time, I did not have the appreciation for it. Whereas now, I was paying attention. I was like, And as you said, in hindsight, in the full context of, let's just, even if it's only for the Infinity Saga, if you think of everything A to Z, it's like, damn, I see how the pieces are coming together. And more importantly, I see how they're being planted for what's coming, So in a nutshell, I certainly love this movie. Does not get the praise and the credit it deserves. But, that's kind of what we're here for. One day, this message will reach the world and they will realize that we were wrong about Avengers Age of Ultron. So with that said, on an overall level, getting into some of the specifics, we've touched on a little bit here and there. Yeah. What better place to start than with Ultron? It is so interesting because I was a fan of, still am, the TV show The Blacklist. And this came out, I don't know, is it 2014 or something?
Yeah, 14, 15.
And I just, discovered The Blacklist. So I'm like, okay, The Blacklist. And I'm like, oh, this show is great, whatever. And one of the elements that makes the show amazing is its lead actor, James Spade, who is, who played Ultron in this movie. So I loved him on that TV show. And then somewhere down the line, of course it's Avengers, so I'm naturally going to watch it no matter what. And then I learned that James Spade is doing the voice. I'm like, what? That guy who always has the dope monologues or the dope stories and all of that stuff. And what was interesting to see upon rewatching this is I knew it was motion capture fine. But now watching it, I was like, I see James Spade in the portrayal, the mannerisms. So he likes to speak with he does a lot of monologues in all his, wherever, because he's brilliant at it. And when he talks, he likes to do, everyone has their own idiosyncrasies. His one is the little head tilt and nod.
Oh, yeah.
So as he's speaking, like he'll pull one of these, go, nice and slow. And then there's the playfulness in the voice and, all that stuff. And just to see that come alive, this time made the viewing 10 times more, amazing for me, man. But on your side?
Well,
like Ultron,
no.
Whether it's the motivation side,
you're speaking about the mannerisms, and I'm picturing it in my head now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay. So
now you're drifting, Wolf.
Yeah. No, I think, Ultron played really well.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. Also, just I talked about it being like a little bit rushed for me, but I will say the introduction into Ultron, as to they just created him, and then you just see eyes, you see the eyes opening basically.
Yeah.
And it's like, where am I? Where am I? And you didn't hear Jarvis.
And the build up in the voice as well. Yeah.
It's like 2 minutes, but the next thing you know, Jarvis is dead. And we love Jarvis. He's been with us for.
He's our guy, man.
He's been there for all of.
Since the beginning.
Yeah. Probably the first voice we heard.
Yes.
The second voice.
Yeah.
So just to kill such an important character off at the beginning as well, just sets the tone as to how much of a threat he is.
Yeah, not to be played with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, that happens, and then you just check him coming in this half robot body, walking in while they're all having fun.
Yeah.
Like a puppet, And it's quite cool to see his character progression. He couldn't walk, and then the next time you see him is, each time you see him.
Yeah, there's an evolution.
He
essentially.
evolves. Yeah, there you go, that's a word. So yeah, just to see that evolution, but you can still see that, even though he's this artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
ChatGPT before it was ChatGPT. He's still got some humanity behind it. The people who made him, he's got their mannerisms, Stark. And, I like or the line where he uses with Andy Serkis, like
it's like Stark used to say that all the time.
Like, pay your friends. What is it?
Pay your friends, pay your enemies, and figure out which is which. Something like that. Keep your enemies rich, your friends rich.
Which is which.
Yeah.
Like, what a line as well.
Yes.
So just to see the evolution. But I would have liked to have seen, when they mention like he's going all over, he's hijacking these things from these places. I'd like to see more of Ultron, but I guess the tone of the movie is also, it's Avengers.
Yeah.
It's not Ultron. Age of Avengers or whatever. So, you know what I mean?
Touché. Yeah.
The focus is honestly.
I get you. I think for me, we spoke more on I spoke more on the portrayal side of things. To get deeper on the motivation side of things, I think that's where, for me, to your point, I didn't mind so much that you didn't see, because the explanation I think kind of covered. He's online everywhere all at once, cool. Yeah. For me, it was more driving the point home of humans have to be destroyed and Avengers have to die. I don't think there was quite as fine a point as we needed as to why. He just immediately jumped to, no, Avengers must die.
And they're a threat. They're a threat. Why are they a threat?
Yeah, they are the defenders, though. They are, I can, look, in general, we can understand. Humans are killing the planet. If someone's like, yeah, man, the elimination of humans and whatever, yes.
Look, if they wanted to go full Terminator, they should have.
But, excuse me. I don't know, man. I don't know if it's like tippy-toeing around it or rushing past it. I think that needed to be.
I think that was my.
Yeah, that fine point. Again, remember, every movie with a villain, that motivation painted clearly, and then we'll be more than happy to support your cause. So I feel like they almost lean too much on us knowing that, we're destroying the planet. So if you're not here, the planet dies. And it's like, Even the line where, when they were in Sokovia, and he's like, and once mankind is destroyed, there'll be nothing left but metal. Even that, why is that a thing for Ultron? It was never really, to make, a bit of a left field example, but you'll see where I'm going with this. Frieza, for instance, from Dragon Ball Z, wants to destroy whatever planet. Why? He just wants to conquer the universe. Go everywhere, destroy. Fine, we understand. So when he blows up Namek, we understand. But Ultron saying there'll be nothing left but metal, it was never established as to, why? What's the point? Why you want to do that?
To make people extinct.
Where is the connect/disconnect between this and the original mission, which is save the Earth, peace in our time, basically. Yeah. What is his interpretation of peace? Thank you. I think that's a perfect way to sum it up. He never established that, just went right to, y'all must go extinct, So that's the thing. Other than that, brilliant. I loved it. Character design, anything to say on that front?
I enjoyed the way it was, It looked ominous.
Yes. I will say I liked it, but I think this is maybe also the early days, but not kind of sort of, the early days of Marvel having this thing. Remember how photorealistic Iron Man's first suit looked in the first movie, Then, as the years went by, they started to lose that more and more. And this is almost like the beginnings of that. Granted, I saw it more with Ultron. I don't think so much with Iron Man. I think Iron Man still had the photorealism elements there. But Ultron kind of, he looked fake to me.
Okay.
He needed a bit of, sharper polish, man.
Yeah, genuinely, like as you were talking about, like he needed a bit more shine. Like it's a bit dull.
Yes. I mean, Vision looked like he's a real thing,
Yeah.
you know. They should have, added the work where Ultron is concerned. That is my one little peeve with him. But I think that pretty much then, is my overall view on him. I don't know if there's anything else you wanna, but James Spader, man, mwah, hella brilliant. Like that voice, oh man.
Marvel, when they do villains, they do them right. When they do the villains right, you know.
Yeah. They don't always, but when they do, man, it's just something, beautiful.
Thing of beauty.
Cool. Then, of course, the rest of the cast, our usual suspects. I actually want to
three.
jump off to Clint.
Hawkeye, yeah.
Yeah.
He got his story here.
I want to jump to Hawkeye, especially because his backstory was a low light for me initially.
Okay.
I'm like, who cares if Hawkeye has a wife? And
Yeah.
because I have this thing where it's like whether it's a TV show or whatever, then you got your main guys, and then somewhere down the line they'll give the backstory to one of the side characters. And I'm like, oh, you're trying to give him more shine. You're trying to, sometimes it works well.
Yeah.
I know, for instance, the TV show The Bear. I'm not
Yes,
sure if
yeah.
they do that quite a bit. Now and then,
yeah.
one of the side characters will get like a full episode or,
sidetrack. Speaking of, I need to watch it now.
the new,
new season.
So every season, there's the focus. Then now and then, this one will have their own
Each,
episode.
yeah,
And they do it quite brilliantly. But it's not a thing that everyone pulls off well. And it's certainly not something I always appreciated.
Yeah.
So the first time I'm like, how Hawkeye kids, so what? Like, savage, I know. I say that to say I've come around for what it's worth, So this time around I was like, I get it, man.
Yeah.
In a sense, they made this guy the heart of the story.
Yeah.
They made him the heart of this, which again, the brilliance of Joss Whedon, because remember, and the fact that they even address, there were so many things that they addressed head on. We spoke about the girlfriends, Jane and Pepper. Because there's all this thing, why they're not in the movies, they kind of brought it up in here. Then the other one is, you talk about aliens and mass destruction and whatnot.
and he's like, I'm
What
just
the
a
hell
guy
is
with
a
the bow and arrow doing
which has
here.
always been the joke. Like, what is Hawkeye doing? But what I love is that not only do they place him in fights where he makes sense, but even now, just as far as...
Like, even his relationship with Wanda, it was like, she, mind-controlled all of them. And he's like, been there, done that.
Not again.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, it leads me to the next part of my point, which is, with him being the heart, it's usually, Cap and Tony, be split, shared, whatever. This time around, they both got whammied. And then they kind of got lost in that sauce. He, being the only sober-minded person, had to step up. I don't even know. Yeah, he did, obviously, by bringing him to bring them to his house. So he realized that, hey, let me step up. And
but that's the thing. Like, while they were discussing things, he was already making the decisions. He's like, where are we going? Don't worry, safe house.
And if you think about the depth of that decision, dog, this is my family. It's my wife. It's my kids. It's my home that no one knows about. He said from the start, he made sure that this is off book. And he's like, we've got nowhere else to go. This thing has taken over the internet. He knows about us. He knows everything, whatever.
Even at the beginning, they humanize him because he's the only one who got injured.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, they had to call the doctor.
Exactly. So, man, Hawkeye, MVP.
You know what they say, right? The Avengers don't win if Hawkeye is not there.
So I love that. Man.
He got his shine. In
and that's the thing. Even if you think about the first Avengers, and I think we touched on that, maybe not as much, but just the idea and notion of balancing out an ensemble cast very well. It certainly rang true even in this movie, So shout out.
Even the other lesser Avengers would be Hulk and Bruce Banner and Natasha Romanoff, and they got their little.
They
love
also
story
had
going
a little something to bring in. We got the backstory of Natasha and her training, just how hardcore it was, and I mean the sterilization element, and quite hectic.
She thinks she's a monster because of such things.
And that's the thing.
And
every one of
he's a
them
monster,
in their way is like facing their demons or their fears. What they might be contributing basically to the mess around them and so on. And it's like, nah, man, we can't be judging each other because none of us are exactly clean or perfect.
They were like really cool, heartfelt moments because Cap was like to Bruce Banner, is like, take it from a guy who's
knows all too well about waiting too long. Yeah. I certainly, yeah. So Hawkeye for me, I just wanted to say, like,
Yeah.
super MVP
Yeah, and
throughout
even
this.
just his wife, just like, it's like, I love you being an Avenger.
Man,
And she's
shout
like,
out, yeah,
it just showed.
Linda. I always mess up her surname,
Yeah.
Carolini, somewhere
What's
along
it?
those
Freaks
vibes.
and
But
Geeks,
Freaks and
people?
Geeks, yeah,
Freaks
she's
and
been around.
Geeks.
Velma,
Yeah,
she's
Velma.
actually been
What's the other
in the
one?
game.
Never mind. She was one where her and her friend like drug deal or something. I think on Netflix or something.
No, man. Are you talking about the Christina Applegate
Yeah,
thingy?
that one,
Yeah. James Marsden was the husband. And
Yeah.
damn, because I was thinking about should I mention? You
I
probably
don't know what
wouldn't
the
it.
show is, but
Dead
yeah.
to Me. Dead to Me.
Okay,
Yeah. Which is a recent thing. So again, it was nice to see, that she's still out
She's
there
around,
doing
yeah.
her thing. And yeah. And man, while we're on her, underrated, doesn't get enough shine.
Yeah.
Should be in
Just
more
in
things.
Hollywood in general.
Yes.
Yeah.
Should be in more things. But whenever she appears somewhere, she kills it. I also got a greater sense of appreciation for her as well in this. I was like, I get it, and I mean, we talk about Hawkeye being the heart of the movie. She is his heart, and you can see and understand why. That whole thing, bringing people together, talking him down if he feels like, nah, I don't feel, I'm at, on par at this
It
level of
grounded-
these guys.
That whole interaction grounded a very high level movie.
Yes. That's why, again, back to my early point, I wanted spectacle from end to end.
Yeah,
but it's like, no, man. If you're talking, especially because ultimately this is still a series, whether you're talking MCU series or even Avengers series, it can't all be high, it's not bodies get
It's like
psyched
Infinity
mixtape.
Wars, yeah.
Yeah, it's not bodies get psyched mixtape. It can't all, it can't be all rise. There are moments where it has to rise, has to come down, and that sort of thing. So, again, that subtlety, being reserved, taking a beat, it certainly made sense as well. Because essentially these guys were also like on a high of sorts, and now something has to bring them down to size, not to mention facing, if it's their mortality, extinction of mankind, all of those elements. Like, man, let's just take a beat, think about things, get our minds right to go for this fight, because unlike anything we've ever encountered before, I think, that was quite brilliant. So, yeah, man, Hawkeye and his family, this time around, I could understand why they were a necessity. But back to then the big three you wanted to get to.
Yeah, how do you feel about the big three and how they were portrayed there?
I don't think portrayal has ever been a thing we needed to worry about, when these guys are concerned. Even as relative, we can't even say it's early on at this stage, man. This is around, third, fourth outing or so, But certainly, I love them. I love the dynamics.
The little running jokes as well.
Yeah, I mean, you
You
always
kiss
have
your
to,
mother with that.
you have to have that language, You missed the opportunity to say that to me earlier as well, but
What can I do?
The banter coming through.
Yeah.
But also, I found this was Tony's one of Tony's more grounded portrayals. He's usually that super charismatic on whatever.
But you can see like it's playing in his mind.
Yeah,
the first
man.
one.
Which I think also is great in the sense of a continuation from Iron Man 3.
Yes.
Post
Agreed,
PTSD,
Yeah.
all of that stuff.
Wants to
and
protect the world.
yeah, thinking about, if whether it's a legacy thing or, I think the way it came through, I was like,
You saw
damn.
more Tony Stark than you did Iron Man.
Which was, again,
Nice
well
change of
justified.
pace,
It was brilliant, and I certainly wasn't mad at it at
For me,
all.
it felt like Thor kind of took a back seat.
I was going to say, he was arguably the weak point of the three, but we also have to speak on, is it okay or did we miss out on something as a result of that?
I don't think so. I think it fits in the context of the movie because his Earth is not his home planet.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? So the stakes are high, but they're not as high.
And remember, his vision, his nightmare was Asgard bound. So now his mind is there more than brilliant. I think, well justified. Yeah, because I noticed it, but I was like, do we need more?
No.
And I think, okay, that was perfectly put. And then what about Cap?
Cap, I don't know. Like, it's not one of his standout performances, I would say. Like, I'm not sure I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Cap.
Here's my thing. Maybe it'll give context to you. Firstly, we talk about a reserved movie. Everyone is relatively reserved, but again, you understand because, they've got a lot that they're dealing with. Cap, I feel like I could understand because you still found those remnants of a man out of his time.
yeah.
Because it's never been established that Cap found his footing in the modern world, if you think about it, outside of being a soldier.
Yeah.
Because
Wasn't there a line about a man without a war?
yeah, that's what I'm getting at. On the flip side, if he's in action mode,
Yeah.
nothing to question.
Undeniable.
I mean, the whole time, no, do this, do that. Clint, you've got the cradle? Okay, go. Do you have eyes on Natasha? Just go. And then he goes, he's still leading the team. He's still driving whatever, cool. It's just more outside of the suit where it's like, where do I fit in? And which maybe could answer the question of, I don't know if I really felt him. It's like, yeah, he is lost. So I took it that way.
Yeah, I'm lost for Wood because he's lost.
Yeah,
Okay.
but again, when I see him in the field, I never felt like
Yeah.
he's short or anything like that. So that's why I was like, no. Cap was still Cap, essentially.
Okay.
And there's also the element of not beating a dead horse. We know he's a man out of time.
Yeah. We've seen it a
We
few
just need
times
to
now.
see it. We don't need the whole exposition sort of thing. So for me, he was certainly up there, And then the rest of the crew, I liked the inclusion of everyone else popping in, here and there. You got your roadie, boom. Is that what you're looking for? Sam Wilson, coming
Yeah.
in here and there.
What's it? The Maximoffs, I guess. One.
Yes, the
Quicksilver,
twins,
yeah. Scarlet Witch and
the enhanced.
the enhanced twins.
Yeah. They were pretty dope as well. I mean,
Yeah.
the whole thing about the introduction, and I didn't realize how much they filled the space,
Yes.
if I can put it that
Yeah.
way, especially on the more human side,
Yeah, like you hear their backstory and how they
which was terrifying as
Yeah.
hell.
and waiting to die.
So for me, I didn't remember when they actually showed the visual, because there is a later movie where they show the missile landing and not blowing off.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a later movie. It might be Civil War or something.
Yeah.
So as they were talking about it, I thought maybe they'll do flashbacks or something. But even without the
Just
visual,
the two of them, you could feel the emotion.
yeah, the way they were telling the story, and it's like, think about it, man. A flipping missile, just lands right next to you, and she's like, every effort to rescue us, every little shift, I kept thinking, is this what's gonna set it off? And I'm like, yo, dog, it's one thing for it to be there,
Yeah.
and it's like a ticket time bomb, but now it's like, as people are trying to save your life, they could literally be putting it in danger, like, I definitely could feel the tension of that, not to mention the tie-in to Tony and what
Yeah,
made
with
him turn
the
around.
stock industry.
Because he also had, his missile blow up. Of course, his one went off as opposed to the other one, but essentially,
Merchant
kind of, almost dying at the hands of that product. Yes, they don't have the context of Tony's not really that same person anymore and stuff, but the full circle moment I definitely appreciated quite a lot. So, and I also felt them joining the good guys made sense.
Yes.
Because it's easy for that to be cliched, but I mean, we saw.
But you know what I mean? It was like they joined Ultron for revenge, and then they learned of his true
Yeah,
intentions.
then no,
It's
he
like,
just wants to destroy everything and everyone.
Because they weren't inherently bad people.
Yeah.
Bad situations.
Yeah. They just, again, wanted to get their lick back. Simple as that. And yeah, she's like, nah, man, I read his mind. You wanted to show it. He's like, no, doing his little childish thing. And she's like, nah, man, we got to get the hell up out of here, because as much as we want these guys to be destroyed, we don't want the whole world to be, So I think even that distinction was quite powerful. I want to jump straight to Sokovia. Primarily because this entire time, dog, throughout, the Sokovia cause, this, that, whatever, with not having seen this movie for so long, I had no clue that the city actually blew up.
So I only realized now watching this movie
Yeah.
that he picked up the city
Yes.
to use as a meteor.
As a meteor, yes.
And I was like, wait, what?
Yes.
I was like, what?
I mean, even talking about, seeds being planted and whatnot, it wasn't just about the universe at large, it was within this movie itself. Earlier on, he's like, I like meteorites, just that whole thing of like starting from scratch.
And then you see the
whatever.
flashback when she reads his mind.
Yeah.
And then
again,
you're
it
like,
was that destruction.
But how is that going to be an extinction event? And then they start talking about it while the city is getting picked up.
Yeah, I was like, nah. Homie has a hope. That's why I'm like, the plan was there, beautiful, whatever, cool.
Well, before we get into that, let's finish off the characters. You said
Okay.
Andy Serkis. You wanted to talk about him?
Yeah,
And then we
thank
can
you.
move on to Sokovia.
Thank you. Andy Serkis. Here is how brilliant this guy is. Ne? Some context for those that are unaware. Andy Serkis is more renowned for motion capture work.
Gollum.
So again,
Lord of the Rings.
we mentioned the term. Let's maybe just explain what it is. So, when for certain CGI characters, in this instance, Vision and Ultron, yes, you could go and do the animation fully on a computer, but what they do instead, they've got this rig that they put on the actors.
Yeah.
The Hulk uses the same. So Mark Ruffalo is always doing the Hulk's actions. And then whatever movement you are doing, they just then put a layer of the character's design on top of it. In other words, again, James Spader was the guy actually acting as Ultron live on set, as was Paul Bettany for Vision and Mark Ruffalo for the Hulk. Now, that being said, Andy Serkis does that a lot in other films out there. He did Gollum in Lord of the Rings, Mr. My Precious.
Caesar, right?
He did Caesar in
Planet
of the Apes.
Apes.
Amazing movie. Series of movies actually. And there might be one other that I'm forgetting. He also owns a visual studio company thingy. Like they motion capture. There's like some major studios, that will hire them to do this stuff. A fun little fact within this fun fact, Coldplay, Adventure of a Lifetime, the video with the monkeys. So his company basically, did the animation for that. So again, he's brilliant as far as his character work when it comes to otherworldly creatures, essentially, non-human characters. And of course, with that comes voice work, which brings me to my point.
Oh, yes, please.
I don't think I've ever seen Andy Serkis in a movie before Age of Ultron. Perhaps I've forgotten. Not even the popular ones with the motion capture. So upon seeing and hearing him, the first time I watched this movie, I was like, I convinced myself that this is a South African actor.
Yeah,
that I've just forgotten.
Accent work is good.
Yeah, I'm like, no, man. I'm like, man, this guy, his face looked familiar. I'm like, hey, no, do I know maybe from like Isi Dingo or whatever? I kid you not. I honestly thought that this guy was one of our, local soapy actors. That is how amazing a job he did. And keep in mind, right, as, South Africans and Africans at large, anytime there's an African accent, we're always the first to be like, look at this nonsense, or listen to this nonsense. There's that generic little African accent they think everyone uses. And in all the little movies, if it's like a voodoo master or whatever, that person will speak in that language. And as much as I love the movie, even Black Panther itself, unfortunately, couldn't escape that. A lot of people, from this side of the world were like, hey, don't know about that accent. But I tell you, dog, you show that clip of Andy Serkis in this movie to any South African, they will be like,
bro.
Exactly. He sounded like a flipping boer, dog.
From
like
Pretoria.
Yeah, exactly. Like the R's and everything. I'm like, yo. I was like, nah, this guy is as amazing as he's always been said to be. I'm like, put him a notch or two higher because people don't understand. I can't remember what the perception of Leo was, because Leo did Blood Diamonds and he played a South African.
It wasn't bad.
I don't remember what people said about it.
What is the other big one was Matt Damon, Invictus.
Yes.
That one was also quite critically acclaimed, I think.
The accent itself for me, so again, in both instances, I don't quite remember. I remember feeling weird watching Matt Damon. I don't know if it's because I know it's Matt Damon or what, or because he was actually off. But my point being, the South African accent is not an easy one to pull off. So yeah, Andy Serkis, brilliant on that. So cool. That's the
characters,
and also I suppose the voice work, which is what I'm basically trying to praise there. But while we're on him, the character, the portrayal.
Yeah, I mean it's like an ancillary character.
Yeah, arms dealer,
stole
vibranium there from Wakanda.
But also stole my attention as well.
Okay, stole the show when he appears.
Stole the show in his little scene, but I guess maybe we as South Africans were more.
Of
hyped,
course, man.
To see one of our own.
Yeah. So shout out to him. Okay, before we then move on, any other characters you want to give shine to?
No.
For me, these are definitely the ones worth mentioning. Yeah. Everyone else, not that you're not necessarily worth mentioning. Nick Fury. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Talking about groundedness and all of that stuff. Amazing. amazing. You've said
Look, Nick
the
Fury
monologues
appeared like
in this.
2 or 3 times at best.
But for me, especially at the
key
house,
Oh,
at the house,
Well,
that's the scene
we
I'm
were
praising.
speaking to Tony. It's like, I'm just a guy.
It was with Tony, but for me, more so when he was rallying the team together.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Remember that? That was good.
Yeah, that scene, I'm like, man. Samuel L. Jackson, dog, I don't think I've been giving him the credit he deserves. I've always seen him, of course, coolest mofo on the planet and whatever, got the swagger and stuff, but just as an actor, I don't think I've been giving. I like his characters, I like his movies, but it's like there's this thing where when you do something bad, it's easier for people to notice than when you do something good. It just becomes a routine after a certain point. So I'd kind of put him in that box, but I'm like, no, man, he deserves proper credit and shine for the work that he does. And that scene alone, yeah, the brilliance came through. Look, we know he rallied them in the first Avengers movie.
Yeah.
But what he did in this one...
He had no, what did he? He didn't have anything this time, you know? He had no out.
It was all on the speech.
Yeah.
And the speech hit very, very hard. Because remember, the other one, and the Avengers one, it was more about the sentiment with the blood on the cards, less so the speech. But here, I was like, oh, yeah, I can feel what this guy's saying. I feel like, I could rally with Avengers after that speech. So just an honorable mention to him on that front. Then cool, back to Sokovia, right? So, okay, I suppose I wasn't the only one who had forgotten that whole subplot. Again, I just remember that there was destruction in Sokovia. I thought it was more those memes, again, that people always have like, oh, they'll have a destroyed house and they're like, my house after the Avengers tried to save me and whatever. So I thought they were put to task
but
for
it
that.
actually blew up. Yeah.
But nah, the whole city got destroyed. Yes, it was Ultron who did it, but they created Ultron. And even if they hadn't, it happens all the time, dog. Man of Steel, we saw the same thing as well. Zod was fighting Superman, buildings got distracted, but it's still placed on Superman.
In the same universe, Battle of New York.
Yeah, but I don't think they were held to task for that.
No, there were no people involved.
There was the difference.
The people were still there.
Yes, so
a big part of that whole scene was saving people.
Yeah, and even if you save the people, their city is now gone. There's nothing to go back to. So the fact that, again, they went for it, it wasn't like, a last minute save. Because there was a build up around, no, it was Tony Stark, if I try this, no, if I try that, what
And
happens?
that's the thing, if the world's smartest man, or should I even say the universe's smartest man.
And at
doesn't know how
every
to figure
point,
it out.
Friday was like, nah, dog, you can't do it because of this, you can't do it because of that. And I was like, they're probably going to put a last minute save, whatever. So when it blew up, I was like, yo, they did it, So yeah, that for me, what's your take on the whole Sokovia subplot?
I mean, I was surprised as well. And then now, hindsight, now knowing why it's become such a big thing later on.
Yes, it gave context also.
It gives context on the rewatch. So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
But also just Marvel to take it there.
Yeah.
Joss Whedon and Marvel to take it there. They killed off Quicksilver.
Yes.
And it wasn't, we always talk about, blood.
Yeah.
You actually saw the bullet holes.
The bullet holes. I was like, damn, yeah. It actually, I didn't realize that part of it was because it was anti-Marvel. Funny enough, when Andy Serkis' hand got chopped off, I was like, yeah, of course, no blood, Marvel. But when I saw Quicksilver, I didn't think of it in that sense. I just remember actually feeling pain for him. Because again, when you see the bullet holes, number two, he was saving their lives. It was a sacrifice.
He was his redemption.
Yes, exactly. So as I said, the humanity that came through from the twins. Yeah. And at the same time, when Wanda just fell to her knees, nah,
and then
something is
wrong.
wrong.
At the end, she was just like,
you took my heart.
You took my heart, yeah. That line.
Ish. Yeah,
no wonder Elizabeth Olsen has a really good
amazing,
arc
man.
in the MCU.
Yeah, and that was the other thing, because I obviously have a greater memory of her now, but just getting the concept of where she started, it's like,
you started with all the loss.
Yeah, no, she had quite the trajectory, throughout her run. So yeah, even though they got people out of the city to still destroy, was huge for Marvel to do. So yeah. I agree. Shout out to them for that.
And then to address the aftermath in subsequent movies.
And it kept going. Yeah. It kept going. It wasn't just a little...
split the team.
It wasn't a little slap on the wrist and you move on.
And that was it, right? You saw it. You saw the rift between Tony and Cap.
Yes,
because
thank you.
Cap was like, Tony's like, we're probably not going to save everyone. And Cap was like, we're saving everyone.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Thank you for that one. I wanted us to go back to it, but we see the seeds of the ideologies clashing.
Yeah.
And remember, it's not even the first time.
At the beginning,
the first Avengers,
okay.
when they were stuck in that thingy, and put on the suit.
Yeah.
They've been having their small little, so
Shifts, yeah.
just the fact that it's been brewing and building and building, and at the end of the day, it'll be. I can't wait to get into the actual conversation when we, do Civil War. But like, it's not an easy cut thing as far as who's right and who's wrong. They both got very valid points. Tony's the one who screwed everything up with this thing.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
intention
exactly.
Right. He had a good intention.
Come on, man. Yeah. And that is the mark of amazing story writing. You can have whatever plot that has the characters in conflict with one another. But once you hit on something that has you as the viewer in conflict, as far as which side is right, then you've done something amazing. Yeah. But you were still talking Sokovia and...
Yeah, so I mean, for me, I was just taking it there. Like,
yes.
I really appreciated that.
Man.
And it was their only option. They didn't have some like easy cop-out.
That's the thing, yeah.
The usual cop-out in these things is time travel.
Yeah, or press the button and zoom, and, even though it's like Thor come through, I was like, once Thor comes through, okay, then you're gonna...
Thor even came through and then...
It still had to go to destruction. Oh, yeah. Nah, that was brilliant, man. Overall, then I suppose that pretty much covers our highlights. Any honorable mentions on the highlight front? I've got, shout out to the city of Josie popping through.
Yes, 100%. That is definitely on the highlights there.
Every time I see that,
South Africa makes a whole cameo.
Yeah, man. Every time I see it, it just warms my heart. Yeah. And I have a suspicion, dog. I don't know if you felt the same. Remember, Sokovia blew up. Then they showed Vision and Ultron in the woods.
You think that's here?
For me, I felt like it's Cape Town woods. Even not the woods, rather, even if it's not based on the woods themselves, it was more the background. I almost felt like, no, man, there's a Cape Townian element happening there in the back. Just South Africa.
Maybe let's just give it another
as a whole. Like, it just reminded me of
I don't think that there's one specific thing where you see in South Africa, but I think there's other elements in the movie where it's also shot.
Exactly, because it's one thing that Andy Serkis had a South African accent. I'm pretty sure his henchmen were South African. Yeah. Those voices, and those were not,
they look South African.
Yeah, everything about them was like, nah, man, these is locals, which will, of course, make, a lot of sense. Yeah, so shout out to Mzansi, representing out here.
Veronica.
Any other, the fight, speaking of which, Veronica, I don't know, I feel like that was the greatest fight. But it shouldn't have been, man.
You think so?
I think the others deserve more shine as far as being... Even if it was like the Sokovia fight, there's the fight in Sokovia, there's the multiple fights with Ultron. Ultron's other fights are fine, but like, I don't know, Sokovia, I think maybe that's where you could have had,
I mean, it's hard to give it enough time when you have like 8 different characters that you're trying to give.
I suppose, because that's also what the Iron Man
and that's
Hulk
the thing,
fight
right?
had.
It's not one time. Ultron, it's multiple, hundreds of
thousands. So it's kind of like the little henchman type thingies, and okay. But I love the Iron Man and Hulk fight. Yeah. It's just that thing where it's like...
And you realize how many times Hulk actually loses. Like, he lost this fight.
I mean, to be fair, remember they said Veronica was built by Bruce and Tony. He's like, because they know this guy has to be subdued, so it was specifically made for... But even just having... Because remember with Iron Man 3, we touched on the fact that Tony has a suit for every damn function out there, including the Hulk Buster. This is actually what it's called. So, I like that fight. And, of course, my favorite was like, go to sleep, buddy, go to sleep.
But then the cool thing was they just ended it so abruptly. It's like knocked him out.
Yeah.
And then you just check him in the plane. Like.
And a cool part of that fight when the Veronica cage was on him, and then he went underground. I was like, beautiful, because obviously you designed the cage specifically for Hulk. So fine, you can't penetrate through, you can't all of that stuff. Therefore, think out of the box or out of the cage, as it were. So when he then burrows under, I was like, that is amazing. Because then if he just punched through it, then it would have been, what was the point? So I like that little nugget. And when Tony knew that he had to throw him in the scaffolding, no one else, he's like, how quickly can we buy this building? And already it's just going on in the background. I was like, damn, okay, billionaire, we see you know, with your long money. But yeah, I think those are some of the ones for me. Any other honorable mentions on your side?
Mid-credit scene, Thanos.
Ah, of course,
Infinity Gauntlet and
The
Thanos. That's
famous
the first,
one, like, fine, okay.
Let me do it myself.
I'll do it myself. And I don't know if you picked up, but you could tell that it's Josh Brolin's voice now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because we touched on it in...
Yeah, I know he is.
Yeah, the previous one that, no, he wasn't cast, but they, retconned it essentially. One more, the conversation between Vision and Ultron at the end.
Yeah.
I loved it. Yeah, that whole,
Just
two sides of the same coin.
Vision in general. It's
We're
like,
both
even
a
his
failure.
monologue when he got birthed, Vision's monologue when he got birthed, like,
Dog, before the monologue, just the jump, dog, when he, firstly it's Thor with the hammer, like, gaga. Just, man, that whole scene, dog, like, they're like 7% away from uploading
and then they
the
also
system.
then there's a Mexican standoff, and then Thor just comes in.
And also, as they talk in Quicksilver, was like, unplug it. You were saying, it's like, I'm like, that's one way to get it done, even going back a step when, again, the conversation, he's like, so we just, and we'll shut it down. And then Tony's like, that's one option. And then Bruce is like, no. We tried this once already. So the whole build up from that moment on, and then fine, he convinces him that, look, man, this is now Jarvis. We know him, whatever. And then as he's about to get into it, Cap steps in. I want to back away, Tony. And then that little thing happens, and then Thor just comes through out of nowhere, hammer. Gets it up, and then Vision, he just does that little jump, man. So all of that, but and then to his initial speech.
Just his initial speech is like, I don't know if I'm on your side or not. It's like,
Yes.
But
yes,
it's necessary for Ultron to get destroyed.
And that's the thing, right? One of the new things I'd learned also was that element of the evolution of Jarvis, because I knew, he was called Jarvis. Now he's Vision. Like, what's the difference? Look, I still don't fully understand it because
the elements of see that if we're going to pet peeves, that's my peeve. It's just the whole framework of how the whole design
it's that.
Even how Ultron how he was created.
Yeah, the visuals could have been better when he was destroying, because obviously it's the initial, I don't know, man, form of life in a sense, as far as us getting a grasp of what this thing is. That was almost too abstract,
Even how they used the Mind Stone to make Ultron.
Yes,
They were just like, we don't have an energy source, but now we have an energy source.
They quantum round it. There's that the meme with the sticker for any leaks. They're like, if you can't explain something, just say quantum realm. So they kind of did that with their AI speak and all the sciencey stuff. So they didn't translate it to English enough for us. But that aside,
anyways, highlights. Vision, just his portrayal in general. Most of his monologues. The little cameo where Cap almost picks up the hammer.
The hammer, come on.
Which apparently has been confirmed. He could have picked it up all along, but he didn't want to in this movie for some reason.
Where and how was that confirmed?
I don't know. I think it's like a...
There's a theory out there.
No. That he could have done it
I've never seen that. For me, again, it still makes sense because...
he's the only one.
Worthiness aside, there's also that surety in yourself.
Yeah.
And he's still finding himself. So I can understand moving it and not lifting it until much later where he's now, full formation.
Unless it's in an elevator and then... I remember Tony and Cap having a laugh.
I did like all the bromance moments, the bickering, like all those little, which again, Joss Whedon, I'm like, no man, the way the characters talking to each other.
Really well.
The writing was great here.
Also, even the usual when you see the Avengers all together fighting the enemy, that's a beautiful scene there.
Thank you.
In that tower.
In the first one, they saved for the Battle of New York. Yeah. And then this one, I like how before then, at the gate that gave us our first one, when they were all kind of in a line, and then someone jumped in at the end, and then it completed the line up. That was kind of the first. Remember, the first scene is them.
Struckers.
Yeah. So as they get into that whole thing, everyone is, fighting this, and then someone jumps in, and then there's like a whole lineup of them cascading, showing the whole team. I liked it right from the beginning. But
I
again,
prefer the
the
second
Sokovia one. Okay,
yeah, the
cool.
Sokovia one
cool.
because you've got the twins now in there.
Oh
You've got
yes,
Vision
yes.
in
It's
there.
the new full team
Yeah.
essentially. Yeah. That was pretty dope.
Yeah, I think that's a highlight there. And yeah, I think everything I would want to talk about we have already.
We've touched on already.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
character work, costume design.
Any lowlights from this one? We've touched on a few, but yeah, anything else?
Yeah, so my main one is just the Ultron and Jarvis. How,
yeah.
Yeah, how they came to be and
Yes.
whatnot, and just more background there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's my main one. Is there anything you?
For me, nothing that we haven't touched on as yet. As mentioned, I feel like the fights could have gotten a little more, man. If you think of the first one, even just saying Hulk smash and then him smashing that big, the big whale ship thingy, and then it flipping it over on its back. That was pretty cool. There's a lot of mini fight scenes here and there that had some great moments. Here they were more emotional as opposed to visually spectacular. So I would have loved a little more of those. But again, the Iron Man and then Hulk one did quite a lot on that front. Thor, we've said, didn't quite show up as much as he could have. In the fights, that's where it would have been a perfect opportunity for him to do, one of those multi-whammy type thingies, like lightning and hit a lot at once, or Mjolnir, something, even something new perhaps would have been great there. But again, overall, I don't really have any lowlights on this movie. I loved it quite a lot. Yeah. Then, shall we move on to our rating then?
Yeah, I think so.
What do you give this out of 10?
I would say 7.5.
7.5, okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go a nice little chilled 8.
8.
Just a nice little, chilled 8 there. And then the big question, right? Does this crack our top 5 or 6, 5.5, because we've of course got Iron Man is still number 1. The Winter Soldier is number 2. Avengers is number 3. And then...
Yeah, we were tied up between Captain America 1.
But that's for the 5th slot. Number 4... Damn, I lost the 4th one. Iron Man 3. Iron Man 3 has to be. Yeah. Iron Man 3 pushed out 4. We've got Iron Man 3 and then it's Guardians versus Cap. Yeah.
That would be his 4th spot.
The 5th spot now. Remember, it's Avengers. It's...
Anyways, I do. So I think top 3 are going to stay the same.
Yeah, so we still got.
So it
why am I now blanking on the second one? It was Avengers. It's the Winter Soldier. Sorry,
Iron Man, Winter Soldier.
Iron
Avengers.
Man. Yo, what? Okay. Iron Man.
Yeah.
The Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Avengers 1. Yes.
Yeah. Those are going to stay the same.
Those are the top 3. Then.
If we agree that Iron Man 3 is better than either Guardians of the Galaxy or
that's
First Avenger, which I don't think is the case.
That's what I want to bring up now, right? Yeah, there's Iron Man 3, there's Captain America 1, and then there's Guardians.
Yeah.
And now there's Age of Ultron.
Age of Ultron.
So let's see how we're going to shuffle these 4 then. Yeah.
So I think... Iron Man 3
is going to have to leave.
Drop out.
Yeah, Iron Man 3 has to leave.
Age of Ultron, is it better than Captain America, First Avenger, or Guardians of the Galaxy 1?
I say so.
You think so?
I think it deserves number 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah. And then it still leaves those 2 then in our 5th spot.
That'll be like a little discussion piece. We'll come with notes and stuff.
We'll
have a young debate.
Yeah. All right. So then I think we'll still leave them on for now. They'll probably be kicked out by another movie together. Because I don't see either of us changing on that front anyway. So
like Civil War's coming.
Yeah. It won't be soon, but it won't be long either.
Yeah.
Cool. Then that brings us to the end of this particular episode. Shout out if you stuck around.
Here.
Yeah. And as per usual, man, hit us with that like, hit us with that subscribe. Catch us on Instagram, the Phantom Geek Zone. And then, we'll see you out the next episode, man. Peace.